Now we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm going to pull the chat up here from YouTube in a minute. This is Massachusetts Beer Reviews, channel of YouTube. I am Thomas Metal 75. We are going to have some panelists, more panelists to come. I hope so. But for now, we have from Brooklyn, New York, we have Michael Kormaroff. He has done a lot of these few Wednesdays that we're starting to do on the Massachusetts Beer Reviews channel of YouTube, fellow friend of the beer online YouTube community, and another fellow online beer community supporter and follower is we got Michael Jennings from the Great White North in Ontario, Canada.
Saga Beach.
Excellent. And what we are doing today, if you can't tell from the video now, this examination was the idea for our examination, unfortunately, was from my good buddy Dave that you've seen on the channel before. He's a little under the weather. He's got some kind of an illness where he needs some antibiotics and is not allowed to drink beer, which he says he hates and sucks, but he says hello to everybody. His idea was to pick your best local IPA you can find in your area, or at least something that's extremely hoppy or it's got that IPA bite to it. So it's exactly what we're going to do today. And I'm curious as to what the rest of the panel here has brought for our discussion tonight. You want to start, Michael Kormaroff?
I will step in. This is from 6 Point, which is a New York City brewery, but they brew their main beers, believe it or not, in Memphis, Tennessee. But the specialty items like this one gets brewed in Brooklyn. So it's called Smoothie, and I was saying before, 7.2 ABV, 25 IBUs, and it's classified a New England style India Pale Ale. So that's what I'm going to be examining.
Excellent. What do you have, Michael Jennings, this evening?
I have, mine's actually an American Pale Ale, which we were talking a bit about offline a moment ago. It's Downhill Pale Ale from the Collingwood Brewery, 5.4% alcohol, and it is 33 IBUs.
Excellent. Very nice. I'm pulling up the chat. We don't have any live people besides me. I got to get out of that chat. So for me, I've kind of, I say I went off a little bit from IPAs, but trust me, this beer is going to work 127,000%. We have one of those New England. Yes, I'm from Massachusetts, New England. We have Trillium Brewing Company in Canton, Massachusetts. Their flagship now, headquarters of where the brewing is. This is their Fort Point Pale Ale, but not just their Fort Point Pale Ale. It's their Fort Point Double Dry Hopped Pale Ale. It is 6.6% alcohol by volume, and it is canned on the 30th of November, which is extremely fresh. It says on the website, this double dry hop pale ale contains the same base ingredients for both the malts and the hops as Fort Point Pale Ale, but with an additional dry hop of Citra. The added hops richly enhance the juicy tropical fruit flavors of pineapple, mango, and create an elevated green, herbaceous aromatics and an increased body. It's 6.6%. They're using two-row barley, white wheat malt, and C15, and also dextrin malt. And it's just hops, and for the hops, it's just Citra and Columbus. I'm going to crack into that right now.
You want to go first, Eric, with the description?
Yeah, I can give you a look. I had this in a Trillium. I don't know if it's actually the best glassware to use, even though it is Trillium, because it has a little bit of this whatever design.
I love the color.
Here is a good look at that. Yeah, this is what people would. This is what Tom the Beer Whisperer would call. It looks like a urinary tract infection because he's a weird man. There's some light, a little bit more light on it, and yeah, I guess it kind of does look like that. But it looks like orange juice, pineapple juice, grapefruit juice right in the glass. If you looked at this as a craft beer nerd, and you would have to assume that that's what New England IPAs look like. very bone white looking head to that. It's more orangey in the light here. It almost looks more like it's tan, but definitely in my neck of the woods, in my light, it's totally that orangey look to it. Haze for days, as they say. Good stuff so far. Well, how's yours looking there, Michael Cormoran?
Okay, mine is looking. And let's see if you can tell in my light. It also has a white head, which seems to be giving off some very nice lacing. And I think it's a little bit darker than yours, but mine has a haze on it as well. Would you say this is kind of a darker orange than yours?
Yeah, it's more on that. It's more on that almost copper side of things.
On the copper orange side.
Rust.
And mine has a lot of carbonation bubbles coming up on the inside that I can see.
How's the beer going on up north in Canada, Michael Jennings?
Soapy white head, kind of hazy. I don't know if you can see the color that well. It's orange.
Michael, can you repeat what the beer is again?
It's Downhill Pale Ale by the Collingwood Brewery.
Collingwood, okay.
Which is about 25 minutes west of me.
Okay.
Excellent.
And they're a craft brewer. They make probably 4 or 5 regular beers, and then they offer some specialties. So they also do a extra special bitter, a pilsner, a saison. What else do they have here? Yeah, those are sort of their main ones that that they offer. Anyways, it's got a soapy white head, sort of orangey, almost copper, hazy, lots of ascending bubbles. Great citrus smell to it with some pine. I really love this beer. I've enjoyed it for probably 2 or 3 years now, and it's just a really good product that's made close to home.
Excellent. All right. I guess we'll go back around.
You want to start again, or you want me to?
Yeah, I'll start again. Sure, why not? Guess we'll go north and then south and then more north. Yeah, this beer, the smell on this. Let's let reviewers and viewers know about New England stuff, as if you aren't already familiar with that, perhaps. Yeah. Yeah, as Master Hoppitz said on his beer review of this, so somehow we got a review of this, about a can of this, he goes, "What the fuck?" And yeah, pardon my French, but yeah, what the fuck? All kinds of really, I get some spicier hop notes to it. I'm getting a lot. This one's actually pretty dry. It does have some sweetness. I guess I would call it semi-dry, but it's pretty dry in the nose. Overall, there is a little bit of a white bready malt sweetness in the background, but there's so much, not the biggest one, but there is so much still of pineapple and mango and grapefruit and orange juice. I like to say that a lot of these kind of beers have grapefruit, pineapple, and orange juicy notes, and that's exactly what it has. Mangoes, maybe peaches are in there as well. There's definitely grass clippings. There's definitely that green herbaceous, I can tell, from even it being 2 weeks old. Now, I hear that these kind of beers, really, really fresh, like days. I can't really recall actually thinking of it that way, but really, really fresh couple of days, you'll get a lot of these, what they say is, quote, green hop flavor, where if you let it sit for a couple of weeks, that sort of initial just overly like green and almost plant-like kind of goes away a little bit. So I'm just getting those hoppy notes of the tropical fruits for days, and some spice and a little bit of that white bready malt. And maybe there is a little bit of a dank quality to it, but it's not the most Woodstock green, if you know what I mean, kind of dank flavor in the nose. But it's smelling great. No problems with that. So I guess we can say cheers. Let's drink.
I have to do my nose.
Wow. Go right ahead, but I apologize.
Okay, mine, it's interesting.
Not yet.
Maybe this is a difference. Mine is very tropical, but I can't pick out specific notes. I can't say it's melon or pineapple, but It's like a generic tropical kind of vibe in the nose. That's what I'm getting. And I can't really be more specific because I'm not going to just pick something out and say it if it's not true. So
that's
generic tropical.
I got to get to that flavor. Wow. Oh, okay. I'll reserve. Here comes Jay. We got Jay Terrio in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Jay.
Hello.
Do you have a local or IPA of some sort to present to the group?
Yes, I'm going to be back in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We will go on.
If my audio cracks up, I'll jump over to the other platform.
Okay. As
Hello.
you were saying, Michael Cormoran.
What I was saying, it's an interesting.
Hello.
Hi, Jay. It's an interesting generic tropical, but in a good way. Because even though I can't pick out, like I say, melon, pineapple, or some of the other classic tropical things, specifically, the general tropical nose is delicious smelling. Very nice nose.
Excellent.
Very positive, I think.
All right, Michael Jennings, nose, smells, thoughts.
I don't get the tropical notes off of this, but other than that citrus smell that you so often associate with these types of beers, and the pine smell. The other way that I would describe this is it's clean, if that makes sense. There's a clean smell to it, a fresh smell to it. This is really nice to crack on a hot day or on a night like tonight where I am, where it's -15. It's just a well-made product. Although I will say Beer Advocate only says it's okay. So
only okay, not passable.
But I disagree.
Well, that's the great thing about beer reviewing is that we can all agree to disagree from time to time. And that's great. We all got our own thoughts and opinions. And, as Swillengrog would say on his beer reviews. And now, for the most important part of the review, the taste test. Let's do it, Michael. Let's do it, Michael and Michael. And Jay will be back. I will drink Trillium. Cheers, everybody.
You guys.
Let's drink some hoppy stuff. Woo. Wow. Wow. I remember having this Fort Point double dry hopped pale ale at the brewery in Canton, Massachusetts, which is maybe 5 minutes from where I work, which is insane. I can just go there on a lunch break and go buy some beers if I want. But yeah, this one, I don't want to sound like a homer or some like, New England's got to be the best IPAs, even though it is my favorite style of the IPAs, or variety, I should say. But it's definitely, that's crazy. It is like, and I remember this when I had it the first time, it's like the driest orange juice you could ever expect to drink in your life. Double dry hopping or just dry hopping in general is not designed to really give you any extra special flavors. I think what it's designed to do is more for the aroma purposes, but even though it has some of that bready, that white bread, and some of that sweetness underneath everything that's going on in the beer, it definitely has this orange juicy, pineapple juicy, grapefruit juicy dryness about it. It tastes like those beers. It tastes like those fruit juices. It has that initial taste to it, and then within a matter of seconds, it just goes completely dry. And it has, I'm getting some of that spicy hop component. It actually may be coming off as just minimally with that garlic and oniony kind of a dank. I think maybe the onion is a little bit more strong in the dank kind of notes than the garlic. There's definitely some green qualities, some green herbaceous, as they say, qualities to it. So, one of the things that I do like about this beer and IPAs within the New England style in general, maybe some double IPAs can be very, very bitter from New England and in that style. But these beers just generally aren't really tremendously like overly sharp or overly bitter in its hop notes. Usually you can find a lot of what they're doing is trying to show what the different kinds of flavors that hops can bring, and not just let me pound you with bitterness to it. So they don't list the bitterness on their website for Trillium beers, but I got to imagine that this isn't really, really, really too bitter. And plus, this being just their pale ale at 6.6, it's not the biggest bodied beer that Trillium has, nor is it the weakest body. But for what it's doing, it's all about its mouthfeel, which also is a little bit, it actually is a little bit fluffy and creamy, which works well in a New England style IPA. And it's one of the characteristics I find that's really hard for a lot of breweries that aren't from this area to replicate. So I'm going to give it a really good rating, but I really, really want to drink on this one tonight for a little bit. Shut up here and let the other panelists talk, and we'll come back for ratings in a little while. That's what I got so far.
You want me to go?
Sure. Jump right in, Michael Cormor from Brooklyn, New York.
It's funny, the tropical nose doesn't transfer to the taste, which is interesting. You're getting more of maybe your classic New England style because it's like a juicy front, getting a juice, and it's really not orange juice either. It's kind of like a citrus juice. Could be orange with grapefruit.
Is it not really discernible? It's not really discernibly just one kind of
right. It's like a combo juice kind of feel, which is interesting because I can't think of another IPA that I've had that has this. I've had other ones that were juicy, but not this where I couldn't tell some of what the juice was. And this is just kind of like, it's citrus, but it's not specific.
Cool. Are you drinking the same one he's drinking?
No, I'm drinking this, Jay. It's from 6 Point, and it's called Smoothie. Oh. Mine is also a New England style beer, and his is a New England style beer. So they are similar styles, but there's
similar but different.
Trillium's been brewing this kind of beer longer than 6 Point has.
Probably, I guess, but 6 Point's been around just a little bit longer, yeah.
Also, after the juiciness, you get a lot of those herbal hop kind of herbal hop feel in the beer. It's earthy, so you're getting that. But like your beer, it's 25. It is. They tell you it's 25 IBUs, so there's no bitterness, but it's extremely smooth.
Well, it's a lot bitter than, say, X, Y, and Z lager beer from the United States, right?
That's true, but if you're comparing it to some other IPAs that are on the other end of the scale, this is like, this is like the baby in the group.
Right. Sure. Got you. How are you? We'll let you sit on that and think about a rating while we do our discussion. But Michael Jennings, how is the beer's flavor in Canada for you?
Hoppy, piney. When I say hoppy, though, like it's not overpowering. It's 33 IBUs. It's just a really nice flavor to it. I find the beer's kind of wet in the mouthfeel, but the finish is kind of like a sharp dryness when you're done when you swallow. I really like this beer. I think it's great. It's got nice glass lacing to it. I like the color. This beer is actually from September, and it still tastes quite fresh. And here we are, December the 13th.
Yeah.
So, to me, that speaks volumes about the product and how it's made. I will read the description on the back. Crafted with just 4 ingredients, Downhill Pale Ale celebrates the elegance of simplicity, a generous amount of American and European hops, perfectly balance its robust malt character, yielding a full-flavored ale with distinct citrus notes. So kick back and relax. It's all downhill from here. And there is that malt character at play too. I don't think I mentioned that, but it is there. It's not overpowering. It's all just you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and it's nicely done.
I think the great thing about IPAs, and I'm drinking this one just to interject for a brief moment before I get back to my original thought here, which is now that I'm drinking this more and I'm thinking about it just a tiny bit, and I said it has a little bit of that green herbaceous character. I mean, it was brewed, it was canned on the 30th of November here.
That's pretty fresh then.
I'm actually thinking that there's a pretty nice green herbaceous kind of I almost said like a hop leaf plant kind of a taste about it. It's kind of difficult if you've not even had anything that's remotely similar to a juicy beer. Now, some people would just say if you want a beer that tastes like juice, just go drink juice, right? But for me, I mean, I'm liking that herbaceous character. It's pretty pronounced for what it is here. You have to be into that. But for me, it's cool that there are so many different kinds of ways you can make a pale ale, an IPA, a double IPA, or any other kind of a hoppy beer that has a predominant hop flowering flavor to it, a hop plant flavor to it, because there's so many different ways that you can go about making the beer, you know, around those particular hops or that single hop variety that you might use to create all these different flavors. They're not really, obviously, for this beer that I'm drinking, I think for most of ours, we only have hops, water, yeast, and malt. So it's very interesting that you can get these other flavors, in beer in general too, but it's interesting, especially in my beer, that you're getting all these different flavors and you're getting all these different, you're getting these food type items in flavor, and they're not using any ingredients but a hop, which is to me what's really amazing about these New England style IPAs, that they do what they do, and they're not even using fruits. There's no fruits involved in any of this. These people just have the chemistry and the alchemy together, and all these breweries that do really good IPAs and hoppy beers do these things where they know that if they use a combination of different hops and different amounts, they know what it's going to do to that beer. And they know if they use a single hop variety, what you're expected to get out of that beer, which is just amazing how these kind of breweries do what they do.
Yeah, they kind of, you know, they have common elements, but as you said, they have these nuances that make them all distinct.
Yeah.
At the same time. And so that's the fun part about experimenting with them and trying different ones is, yes, they're similar, but they're different too. There's these, I'll go back to that word, nuances, and that makes them enjoyable. And some you like better than others. Some you like at certain times of the year, but it's all about the experimentation. And I even find sometimes, you know, I'll try this and then I'll come back to it 3 months later and it will taste slightly different than I remember. And I'm like, is that my recollection at play, or is that because this is something that's made in smaller batches? I don't know.
Right.
Let me give one more comment, Eric, on mine before Jay does his.
Certainly.
The finish is also really different. I don't know if you've had this kind of effect either. It's a very sticky finish, which is, I don't know if that is something New England IPAs have. You've had more of them than me.
I would say that between pale ales, IPAs, and double IPAs, it definitely varies. I don't notice it so much in IP or in pale ales or sessionable lower ABV pale ales. Usually single IPAs don't have that, and sometimes double IPAs or triples can kind of have more of a sticky, syrupy mouthfeel to them, but usually not so much.
It's 7.2, so I guess you'd say it's like an above average IPA.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be considered a double though. But
that's pretty New England IPA standard range right there, 7.2. A lot of Trillium beers are 7.2. But interesting, very interesting thought on that. Everybody should know Jay Terrio, Louisiana Beer Reviews. You got a IPA to share, and if so, which one are you choosing this evening?
Okay. I hope my audio is still good.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah, it might just trip out on us. I like what Michael said. I agree that it has these things will have little nuances, and I find that these IPAs are sticky in the sense that if you get some on your fingers, it'll make your fingers really sticky, like if you got a Japanese plum juice on your hands. But this one, is more clear. It's clearer. It's not super clear. It's more translucent than what you're all drinking. This one is from Honorville, Louisiana, along Bayou Teche. It's called Bayou Teche Brewing's Swamp Thing.
I like the name. That's cool.
It's an India Pale Ale, 6.3% alcohol, and it's 60 IBUs.
Nice.
Ooh, that is nice.
Yeah, it's not too expensive.
Which is also nice. You didn't have to wait in line to get it, which is also nice. I didn't wait in line to get this, but unlike other styles of beer, it seems like you got to stand in line to get hoppy New England beers. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, I got to say this. You might have heard me talking about how Bourbon County and Canadian Breakfast Stout are sitting on the shelf, just sitting there collecting dust, let me tell you.
It just shows you how geographically different it is. Here, they're selling the hell out of it. It's just amazing to me.
Wow.
The stuff is flying off. I'm not saying they're going to be able to sell all of it. They might have to cut the price. But in Whole Foods, it was $9.99 for each one of the KCBS.
Wow.
CBS, the founders CBS did not fly out the stores because people saw that price and said no. And then Bourbon County Stout, I've been in stores in the past week where they've got rows and rows of it. I think they over ordered and now they can't get rid of it. But I mean, they'll eventually sell it, you know.
And it does sell her well, so they won't lose anything. They could keep it for a long time.
Now this beer has a sharp hop resin note. You can see it's fruity in the appearance. Looks like mango. I mean, apricot juice with the head. It's not milky like they added flour to it though. But it had a lot of sediment stuck to the bottom.
Nice.
A lot of sediment caked at the bottom. Now look at this grayish yellow cloud now.
Oh yeah.
It's going to get milky just like what you're drinking after that cloud gets.
It's like a lot. It's like it's like a lighter shade of one of these kind of New England beers.
Right. So this is sort of like Louisiana New England IPA.
New Louisiana beer.
Right. It's 6.3. You can see it. Look, it's clouding up. I just did a swish and pour, and it's very sweet. So it's almost like a sugar beer. 60 IBUs, so it's got a lot of bitterness.
What's the nose like, Jay?
It's got heavy lacing on the glass.
Sammy Russell says, "Hey Jay, good evening, everyone. Hey Tom, and hello, sir." And we've had before I let you finish there, we've had Backwoods Billy chatting up live with us. So good evening to the both of you.
Hey Billy and hey Sammy.
And Jean Pierre is about to join us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to stay too long. The nose is hop resin, bread crust, white bread crust. Look at this maniac.
What's up? What's up, everybody?
Hi, John.
Yo.
Hey, I was on the phone with a dear friend of mine, and I'm saying, I got my new laptop. All right, I'm sorry, Jay. Finish up. My bad.
Get some headphones. I'm muting you. Sorry.
All right. No
John, you interrupted this fantastic presentation that I'm making. It's resiny and the flavor. It's very bitter. It's 60 IBUs and it's a full 60.
Nice.
So if you don't like bitterness, it might chase you away. You know what I mean? It's not for people. Like I was talking to my father on the phone, and he was asking me why they call them IPAs, and I was explaining it to him, and he said, "Oh, I don't like bitter stuff." I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "I thought they just put hops in a beer to give it flavor." Yes, I said, "Well, they discovered that hops are a preservative. They kept the beer from going bad, so they would add a lot of hops to keep the beer from spoiling." Of course, once it came out with refrigerated ships, then that wasn't necessary anymore when they had the refrigerated containers. But
change the game.
And not to mention pasteurization. But this one has a high medium mouthfeel. It's nearing heavy. It's a drying finish. It's dynamite. It's about if you get a single, it's about $1.69 for a single. A 6-pack might be $8.99 to $9.99.
Good price for a good beer.
Do any of you guys? And I'm gonna watch. I just want to see what Jean-Pierre's presenting before I jump off of this. But do any of you guys get any Bayou Teche beers?
I don't think I've ever even heard of that company.
I think I've gotten one, Jay. You'll know it. Their pale ale, something with Route 31. Is there a Route 31 pale ale that they make?
Yeah, Louisiana High, because the brewery's located on Louisiana Highway 31, LA 31.
Okay, I've had that.
And then they've got LA 31 Black Lager. And then they've got this one. And there's so many that they make.
But if I remember right, it was a chance thing. It's not like it's regularly available. I got one through some place where they were getting rid of, special deals kind of thing, or one of these $2 table kind of things.
Oh, yeah. And they're really trying to mimic Trillium now because their big thing right now is all those milky, super dank, fruity. Yeah, that thing. That's like their Nova Vert. Yeah, Nova Vert and Ghost in the Machine. So that's the big thing now. But I prefer this nice little India Pale Ale. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm going to listen to what Jean's presenting. He's got something from Fairhope, I think, and then I'm going to jump off.
What you got?
Unfortunately, guys, is not from Fairhope. Actually, is right here in the city of Mobile. New brewery that just came out this year called Haint Blue Brewery. It's located on Monroe Street, the old Crystal Ice warehouse in Mobile. It's right across near the Mobile Public Library, the main branch. And this is their new Indian Pale Ale. If you look at their website, Haint Blue Brewery, it's not much really says, but they have 3 beers are out there right now. They have this, they have a porter and something else, and you could get it at any grocery store, Rouse's, the Greer's Cash Saver, as Jay and I like to call these stores, the Pay for More store.
We have a live question for Jean before he continues.
Go ahead.
Sammy Russell says, Jean, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. How you been, bro?
I've been good, living.
All right, continue on with your excellent beer.
I've had this IPA, and then when a friend told me where the beer was made, I said, "Really, at Mobile?" Gave it a shot, and I gave it to a friend of mine. He liked it, I liked it, and your standard IPA, it is 6.3 is the ABV on this one.
What's the part of a good IPA?
Standard IPA, 2 row malts. There's Mosaic hops. There's Cascade hops in this.
Do they give IBUs?
I've had this in the refrigerator for about since yesterday, and
any IBU rating yesterday. You know of?
What'd you say?
Any IBU rating you know of?
I don't know what the IBUs on this is.
Probably about 60s.
But there's more information on this beer on Rate Beer for whatever the reason than on Beer Advocate, and even on the website doesn't really offer much. It says a story about how the brewery got together, what happened, how they put it together, such and such and such. Very good IPA, well made, nothing overpowering about it. Solid to me.
Before I jump off, and I appreciate you inviting me, Eric, and it's good to see Michael in either order, because I'm talking about both of you, Michael, Eric, and Jean. Jean, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Do you think I should drive? I hear an echo.
All right, go ahead.
Should I go to Mobile next year again?
I wouldn't mind you coming to Mobile, my friend.
Roy Moore's not in the Senate. Oh, wait a minute.
No, he's not. No, he's not in the Senate.
All right, we're not going to get political here, except for
not even Steve Bannon. Yeah.
Hey, wait a minute. Even though that's the case, I will still go to Alabama. Hey,
good man.
Hey, if you do, Jay, that'd be great. Maybe we can go to the brewery. I mean, the brewery's like, if we go downtown and the brewery's right there, and if they're doing tours, we can go to the Haint Blue Brewery and just kind of you know, once they get everything, when they start doing these tours, whenever that may be. So
we got a live question.
Do you think they'll come to Louisiana? Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to ask.
Jay, don't leave yet.
We got a live question from Sammy Russell. He says, "Quick question to y'all, and what you say?" Yes, he says what you say. What you say on the Victory Hop Devil versus Stone IPA? Anybody got thoughts on that?
Victory. I choose Victory.
Any thoughts, Michael Kormarov?
That would be a tie for me. I think both are good.
Yeah, I agree with
I've
that.
had
both.
that Victory.
They're both very good. I've had both. They're both very good.
Yeah.
Michael,
I haven't had
ever
either.
had either or?
Michael can't vote because he doesn't get them in Canada.
Nope, haven't had either.
And then Sammy Russell says fruity versus tropical. I'm gonna, and that's almost a loaded question because tropical is a fruity note.
I'll take bitter over fruity.
Me too.
Me too.
I'll take tropical over bitter and fruity, but I might be from New England, so I'm sorry.
Because you are a communist.
Oh no, I stand in line for beer. No, I do not.
I'm just kidding.
Jay, before you leave, I have a memory for you. Are you ready?
Yes, maybe.
Can you see it?
Why do you do
Valentine
this to
Ale.
me? Why do you torment me like that?
Okay. I have it's a,
You get pleasure out of it?
Valentine.
no,
Yes.
Jay, there's a story, or else I wouldn't have done it. Okay.
My neck of the woods. The proud beer of New Jersey.
Today I go to return my bottles because here in New York there's a nickel deposit on the bottles and cans. I know in other places there's no deposit, but
You get a dime.
and there's a dime in Michigan too.
And
No, we don't have deposit anymore. Okay.
so
Okay, so I go to the store and you have to bring them to like the place where they're also doing recycling. So you have to separate everything out, and the people there are mean because they're doing that all day, and people are bringing hundreds of water bottles. There's a deposit on water bottles too. So I was lucky. I only had, like 44 or 48 bottles, cans. So the guy, when he sees he can get rid of me fast, just does it, and he gave it to me. So I went across the street, and the place that actually owns it is across the street, and they have this 99-cent, like a grocery cart full of beer. Now you have to be careful because a lot of the stuff is dated, so you have to look at the dates. I had my glasses on. I looked at the dates. So this one is actually in date. I was amazed, and I got this for $1. So I mean, you can't beat a Ballantine triple XL for $1.
yeah.
What size is it? Michael,
Bart
Bart Robinson is drinking live with us. Hello, sir. He's drinking a
Bart?
Valentine Ale right now, and Sammy Russell is drinking the Victory Hop Devil right now. John, continue.
I'm sorry, Michael. I was going to ask what size is that bottle?
It's a 12 ounce.
I'm getting off of this, and look,
Give us a quick rating on that beer.
mine's
Yeah.
is this. I
Or
would
what's your
say.
final thought?
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I think it's an A. I think it's most excellent. I don't have any problem with it. I like it. You should buy it. You should try it. You'll probably love it. Secondly, Michael, if you
Yes.
go to Fleer Beverages on 10th Avenue in Manhattan, right by the University Bridge,
I know that.
going to the Bronx, you will be able to buy Ballantine in about 4 or 5 different configurations. Ballantine. That place is incredible, but they only accept cash.
No credit, huh? No debit cards.
And no checks. So Fleer Beverages, I went in there and I was like about to pass out. And Bronx, and then if you cross the bridge into the Bronx, that is the Ballantine capital of the world, believe me, because I was walking all down Tremont Avenue and all of this, and I was buying so much Ballantine.
It's a good normal beer right there.
Hey, man, my area in New Jersey, Newark, you go down Newark, of course, where the beer was made at, Newark, New Jersey, Freeland Avenue, around that area. Ballantine is about the same. I mean, it's everywhere.
Sammy Russell
I ought
says,
to drive back to New York.
Sammy Russell says to Jay, have a good night, sir. Sorry I've been such a stranger and not been in the live streams, but been crazy busy.
Hey, that's okay, Sammy. I appreciate your support. And get ready, folks, tomorrow for our Dawn Busters. We've got a Dawn Busters Bourbon Taste Challenge.
Nice.
I'm heading home for Jersey for next week, and I will be try to try to do a little shopping. Hopefully, I'll be able to find the Lord Chesterfield Ale and
Eddie Cream
and the porter and a couple other beers.
Valentine, you taking that megabus, huh?
Megabus to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta flying there. I'm going cheap. I don't fly out of Mobile. And
he's going to Newark, so his parents have to drive and pick him up.
Well, unfortunately, this time, of the three, Michael, you know how cheap of the three airports LaGuardia is. So
Newark
is into LaGuardia.
You get LaGuardia instead of Newark. Okay.
No, I know, but my dad's not too happy about it. But my kid brother's going to pick me up from there. So, you know, I know they're doing renovations on that airport, but it's the cheapest of the three, and you know.
Okay, but wait a minute, hold on. Greyhound bus from LaGuardia into New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, or it might be Peter Pan. It's
Peter
only
Pan
like
buses, yeah, but I want
$17. You know,
I know. I want the good service.
Spend time with his brother.
I want the good service, brother. Come pick me up.
Where's my brother's at?
He wants to make his brother drive through 3 hours of traffic so he can save.
Damn, brother.
Okay. All right. Y'all take care.
Hey, before you go, Wednesday's a good day for you until January, though, as far as more of these beer things?
Yeah, probably so.
Oh.
Excellent.
Yeah, why not? I have that whiskey thing on January 3rd, but otherwise, free, yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
so we'll keep in touch on Beer Talk 2017. And when it turns 18, it'll change.
18 coming. I'll do my best as well.
Nice.
Okay. Good night, Jean. Good night, Michael. Good night, Michael.
Guys.
Night, Jay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So,
John, do you want to give a full description of yours, the nose?
well, like I said,
how about the nose?
sorry, y'all. My microphone's coming. These are earphones. I'm getting some new earphones. A personal Christmas gift for me. But
Beer community, thank you.
Right. Like I said, the Hand Blue IPA. I've had other IPAs, and I did a review of this. I tend to be more biased towards other ones, like like Stone, as you mentioned. Ranger from New Belgium now, the Voodoo Ranger IPA, which they changed their name. Who've never had their Ranger IPA before.
We're getting fade out again.
Right.
You're good. Keep going.
Okay. But I think this is a very good IPA. I really enjoy it. It's well made, and the fact that it's locally made in this area, which is a good thing. I think it really gives it. I like to see beers like this supporting in the community like this. It really makes your town makes you feel good. And it's a good thing. It's a positive. So I enjoy it. I don't know why I'm getting the echo. Are y'all getting the echo too?
I'm guessing it was from me, so I'm going to mute myself until I talk.
Okay.
Michael, as far as the brewery that your beer is from, have you tried all the products they make?
With the exception of a few, what I'll call seasonal offerings, yeah. They're all really good. They're consistent. This I got as a single at we have provincially run liquor stores. So that's where you buy most of your beer, or the beer store, which is owned by the big brewers. Anyways, I bought this at the provincially run liquor store. It was $3 for the 473 milliliter can. That's not unusual. You might get something for $2.85 or $2.90. The high end would be $3.25. So that's kind of an average price for it. But yeah, I've tried all their other beers. I've got a Pilsner from them right now in my beer fridge that I'll probably crack open on the weekend.
Well, the 6-point stuff is really, I've supported the brewery for a long time. This new system where you can order the beer on the app and then pick it up on the following Saturday is really good, because when you go, they also have lines of beer for you to try, which is some pretty
like
amazing.
A flight of beers.
Yeah, a whole bunch of stuff. They might have 7 different beers that you can try, and you can sit if you want to sit there. It's from 10 to 4. You could stay there all day if you want. But
yeah, there's breweries like that too. You can go there. You can do samplings. You can do tours.
what they're trying to do is they want you to buy these beers. So since you are putting money into it, and this next one that's this Saturday, I only bought a 6-pack. In the past, when they had that barrel aged stuff, which we did review, I did that 4 beans. I bought a couple of cases, and it was $20 for a 6-pack, so it was expensive. So I still have most of that in the refrigerator. But this one, as I remember, was $15 a 6-pack, so that's $2.50 a can, which isn't bad.
You want to hear something bad? I believe I'm talking price here. This is gonna like set you people back, especially John. I bet. I think this beer that I'm drinking. Oh yeah, $20.20 a 4-pack the other day.
Wow, that's over $5 a beer.
That is pricey.
And that's from Massachusetts?
From Trillium.
Yeah, it's from Trillium Brewing Company, which is sort of like a Alchemist Heady Topper kind of a beer. Which they rate, which I mean ratings, like I say, and I always say here that the great thing about beer reviewing and reviewing beers on Beer Advocate, Rate Beer, or doing the beer reviews like we're doing now on YouTube is that it's very you're able to be subjective because it's your own review. You should rate the review and the beer as you want to rate it. Although I think this is getting a 4.95 out of 5 on Beer Advocate. And out of 250 beers from the top 250 list, Double Dry Hop 4 Point is number 47 out of 250
So that's
in the world as the top beers.
Very highly rated beer then.
Yeah, so I love these beers, don't get me wrong, but there are much more economical ways to get this kind of a beer in my area, although every now and then I don't have a problem spending that kind of money on the beer. Do I buy it on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis? No, but do I like to have it at least once a month? You're damn right I do. It's about balancing the price of everything out. I can't do this every week, $20 for a stupid 4-pack of what's really a thing you don't even need in this world right now is beer. But
it's
because it's a hobby and we love this stuff, I can justify every so often buying something like this and getting a really awesome experience out of it.
A step above Jenny Cream Ale, though, right?
1, 2, 3, 20,000 steps above Jenny Cream Ale. Even though I like Jenny Cream Ale, but it's nowhere near the same drinking experience. Sorry, John.
No, that's fine.
John, where would
what
kind of rating would you give the Paint Blue in terms of either? I'm not sure what scale you use. If you're a letter guy or a number guy.
I'm a number guy. I'm gonna out of 1 out of 5. Well, I like to do the 1 out of 10 scale. I'm gonna give this thing an 8.5. I think this is a very, very good IPA. Is not the same. Again, I'm biased more towards the Voodoo Ranger and the Stone and Goose, but this is pretty good. Or the Good People IPA, which is made here based in Birmingham, Alabama, by Good People Brewing. I would say that is quite enjoyable as well. But I would say an 8.5 is probably a fair score for this beer. And I really like what the brewery's doing. Like I said, I saw their videos. If you look at the website, Hate Blue Brewery, their videos on YouTube, I like the energy what these guys are putting out right now. I really think they're going to go a long way. I don't know, they have 3 beers out right now, but I'm sure they're going to expand themselves. But
it's pronounced Hay as an H-E-Y.
H-A-I-N-T. H-A-I-N-T Blue.
H-A-I-N-T Blue.
Yeah, Haint or Haunt Blue.
Gotcha. All right, cool.
It's
Haint Blue Brewery.
It's Haint, not Paint?
Correct, with an H. Yep, that's exactly how you spell it. Interesting.
H-A-I-N-T. Okay, I got it.
Yeah,
H-A-I-N-T Blue Brewery.
Okay.
I see the
Mobile,
website.
Alabama.
Got it.
Looks very awesome. Yeah, I like the look of that website and some of the stuff they got going on. I'm thinking about this beer. I've had the 4 Point original pale ale number of times. Like I said originally at the start of the beer review here and the examination, I had the double dry hopped Fort Point Pale Ale version. One time, as I remember, which was just at the brewery tap room. Now there are 3 different places to get Trillium beer. You can go to the place in Canton, Massachusetts, which is off of Route 1. It's sort of towards Gillette Stadium, maybe 10 minutes away, 15. And that's the only spot well, actually, they have a tasting room there. Their original headquarters, where they started in Congress Street in Boston, which is in their Seaport district. You cannot taste the beers there. And they opened up a beer garden within the last year, and in Roslindale, which is one of the towns inside of Boston, where obviously it's a beer garden, so you can go there and you can drink their beers now. But I digress on that. I had this beer once. I really thought highly of it then, and I'm thinking on my own, and not just because it's Trillium and it's New England IPA and you spend the money that you do, that I'm automatically supposed to give it a high rating. I say screw that, but I am going to give it a high rating, because the greatest part of these kind of beers is not that they are smack you in the face. Really, usually they're not smack you in the face bitter. And this is not smacking you in the face bitter. It's just not. But the thing that I really like about these beers is, number one, it's all hops and a little bit of malt that's creating all of this flavor to it that I described, which is green, which is now it's a lot when it warms up a little bit, is a lot of this green herbaceous, almost I like to say like a Woodstock 1969 flavor, if you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Colorado state flavor. Yeah, sure. And it's very, very dank, which is cool. And it's got the most dry orange grapefruit juicy note in the planet Earth, practically. So if those are things that sort of tickle your taste buds and fancy you, then this is almost a 90. I'm going to give it a 94. Let's go with 94 out of 100. This is damn good. So I just like how New England IPAs, it's so hard for these other companies to duplicate this fluffy mouthfeel that they have. And that's thanks to a lot of these wheat malts that they use. So 94. And John is going to leave.
No, I'm not leaving. I was going to say a quick question, Eric. What's the difference between, I guess, everybody, West Coast IPAs, New England IPAs? I've had the Harpin IPA. I've had, I think there's another IPA from that region of the country, versus the ones that are made out west. What is the difference?
Yeah, for me, and anybody else can interject if they want. For me, traditionally, when we used to think about the East Coast style of an IPA, I almost used like a Ithaca Flower Power. That's probably a good example. I used to kind of think that they were more florally, almost they kind of had a light, I used to call them an herbalescent shampoo, almost kind of a flavor to it.
More
and
earthy.
And then the West Coast IPAs, I always thought of having more of a toffee and a caramel maltiness to it. They were a lot more dark than the East Coast, and they also had more of a resiny, almost like a pine sappy kind of a flavor to them.
Now, the New England ones, I guess, Jean, tend to be more juicy and tropical and less bitter, for sure.
The question, though, yeah, I agree with all of that. But the question, and I was reading this at lunchtime on my phone, is should New England IPAs even be considered its own style of IPA, or should it just be considered a single IPA or a double IPA, but they're just using different brewing techniques to create the same style?
I think I think it's different, and I'm only saying that because none of the other ones have IBUs this low. So because of that, bitterness is not a prime factor in it. So it's different.
Yeah, and the thing that, and I was thinking about this when we were getting this beer examination going, is because I have the pale ale, which isn't really typically supposed to be quite this bitter and hoppy like mine is, even though it's not the most bitter thing in the world. I'm still using a pretty good amount of hops from Columbus and Citra, lots of Citra. But what's the difference when you look at it in American brewing terminology between pale ales, American IPAs, and American double IPAs? What really is the difference? And as far as I can tell, from between 2008 beer certification judging program guidelines and 2015 guidelines, that American pale ales are supposed to be pale, refreshing, hoppy ales, yet sufficient supporting malt to make the beer balanced and drinkable. They can have clean hop presence to them and can reflect classic or modern American or New World hop varieties. And they have an average strength hop forward character to them, but they're supposed to be more balanced than IPAs. And according to 2008 Beer Judge Program Certification Guidelines for an American Pale Ale, they're supposed to have a moderate to strong hop aroma from dry hopping and late kettle additions. Citrusy hop characters is very common. It can have a low to moderate maltiness to support the hops, and they can have bready characteristics, malty characteristics. Fruity esters can be moderate to none. Dry hopping can be used, which will create a grassy flavor to it. And all those things can be found in their flavors, and it can be a moderate to high bitterness. And anything double IPA is just even more so than that. So I think a lot of these breweries in America kind of screw around with what's really a pale ale and what could really be considered an IPA or what can be considered a double IPA. Anybody got thoughts on terminology of these beers?
Just by the ABV. I mean, if you can go, it's like 1 to 6.3% and say, well, this could be an Indian, it could be a double, it could be a regular, where most double IPAs start at 7, maybe 8%, so, what is I think the key is the ABV. If the ABV is over, if it's 6, some say, well, it's a double. I say, well, no, it seems like a regular IPA to me. So
BJCP is listing from 2015 that an American Pale Ale is somewhere between 4.2 and 4.5 and 6.2% alcohol by volume with 30 to 50 IBUs. In American style pale ales, they're listing that at about the same, but IPAs can be almost, more, can be almost upwards of that 8%, but 8% is starting to become more of a double, more in the double kind of a range.
I was going to mention.
I think a lot of different breweries, depending on what they brew, might call what I'm drinking a straight up single IPA.
Yeah, they would. It just because the ABV would put it into that area.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I will rate mine if you want. I gave it an 8.25 out of 10. So it doesn't mean I didn't like it as much as John liked his. It just means it doesn't reach the 8.5 for me.
What would you do differently in that beer? What would you like to see done differently in that beer to rate it higher?
They're not going to do it, though. See, they're trying to keep the IBUs low. I like New England style, but I would like more than 25 IBUs. Maybe I'd like 40.
So you definitely liked our Heady Topper beer we examined more than that. Yeah.
I love that. I gave that in the 9s. So that was top end stuff.
What did you rate? What did you rate your beer, Michael Jennings, and what would you like to see different about that beer?
I would probably rate it a solid A. What would I like to see different? If anything, I wish that it was slightly more hoppier than it is, just because that's what I personally like. I suspect the reason it is not is they're trying to appeal to a broader consumer, if you will. So I don't expect that to happen at all. But you know, if I could wave my magic beer wand, yeah, that's what I would like. But I'd give it a solid A. Yeah.
I guess my 8.25 is probably a B plus.
I'm drinking this beer, and as I'm getting closer to, yeah, that's the end of the can here. I got a little koozie on it. Yeah, I know. As I get closer to the end of the can, where some of this, I mean, it is hazy, but you can't really see a lot of it. It's not chunky like in our Alchemist beers and the Heady Topper that Michael Kormaroff and I did, where it's not even just yeast that was in that Heady Topper beer. They actually tell you that it's hop particulate and hop matter that creates all of this chunky sediment in the beer, almost like sand or something, or like dirt or something. But
they tell you to drink it out of the can
because they think it's ugly and they don't want you to put that into the glass. But for this beer, as I drink it closer to the bottom of the can, it gets much sweeter for me. And these dank notes get much bigger, and there's a bigger amount to me of a puckering bitterness. Everything about the beer towards the sediment, if you will, it just really, really overly exemplifies all of the flavors of the beer. It's much more of a bitter flavor when you get closer to that end of that can and closer to that sediment. So if you don't like that kind of an experience, then don't really drink the very bottom of the can. But if you're an extreme beer guy, you're gonna be in hot heaven for days.
Is that also because it's warming? Does that change
a little bit? I think the warming is making it have a little bit more of a sweeter, juicier note. The sweetness is definitely more pronounced when it's warmer, which maybe some might like that. But yeah, it's definitely just everything is more pronounced at this point towards the yeast.
Because I certainly noticed, you know, if you're drinking a 473 milliliter can versus the smaller cans, you know, if you let it sit for a bit, as it warms, there's often a change in the taste, in the flavor.
But damn good nonetheless. I'm still going to give that 94.
Quick question, guys. When I take my beer out of the refrigerator, I like to sit it for just, particularly in an IPA, I like to sit it for a good couple of minutes, you know, on the table or counter, whatever, and let it kind of, you know, I guess I don't say warm up, but at least kind of give it to a, just kind of say, all right, I don't want it too cold, but I don't want it too warm, but kind of like an in between. Do y'all do that too?
Yeah, I'll set mine out for like 10 minutes. I'll get it out, set it on the counter, get the glass ready, go do a few things, and come back about 10 minutes later. And then I open it and I pour it. And usually I let it sit in the glass for a minute as well.
I do the same thing, but not for a long time, because IPAs do taste better cold to me.
Mm-hmm. Hey, also, quick, guys, I'm sorry. I said Hint Blue IPA was 6.3. It's 6.6. Excuse me.
Okay, I will change that.
So 6.6, and I'm looking at their website. For whatever the reason, it says webfunder.com and hashtag Hint Blue Brewery, and it is listing all of their beers. As I mentioned, their IPA, they have a saffron saison and a blonde, a Hint Blue blonde, and then they have their porter. So they have 5 beers basically right now. And they also a porter and a double IPA, which is 9%.
Nice looking website. You think they can distribute internationally?
Yeah. So
tell them Michael wants a direct shipment. We can't get it here either, by the way. It's probably just in Mobile.
Just like I said, they're just started, and hopefully we'll expand and further out.
The next place to get will be John.
Outside the state of Alabama. So let's hope.
Next place to get it'll be Pensacola, because it's right across the border.
I know.
It's in Florida, but it's right there.
Exactly. That's why Donald Trump was there. I said, I'm in Pensacola, but vote for Roy Moore.
God. Anyways, I got one more beer. I got one more beer I'm going to consume this evening, and that's going to cap it off for me. I'm not going to go. Yeah, here's another one. Yeah, right.
Super Session. What's that?
Number 8 from Lawson's Finest Liquids. Another one of those beer.
Local?
Yeah, they started.
That's in Vermont, right?
Loosely. The company started in, I think it's like Stowe, Vermont or something. The Lawson's Finest Liquids. They make that Sip of Sunshine beer. I don't know if anybody's heard of that.
I've had the Sip of Sunshine. It's amazing.
So they brew these beers. They have a 2-session IPAs. They're both, I think, 4.8%. They do Super Session number 2, and this is number 8. I don't know how they picked those numbers. No clue. And they do the Sip of Sunshine, and they brew all 3 of those. They probably brew them in Vermont, too, but for my region of the world, they brew them at Two Roads Brewery in Stratford, Connecticut. And they're much cheaper beers than Trillium beers, for sure. I think a 6-pack of the Super Session beers is like 11 or 12 US dollars and change. I think the Sip of Sunshine might be 14 or 15 for a 4-pack for a 16-ounce can, so not so bad. I did do a beer review on this one. It's quite darker, but it's still technically considered in the same style as a New England IPA. It's just 4.8 and a lot lighter of a body and mouthfeel. Again, I did a review, but just quickly, this one is got a darker malt quality to it than what I just drank. It's got some of the same notes, but they're just diminished greatly. It still has a lot of some dank character and juicy notes to it, but this one's definitely more, now that I smell it compared to the double dry hop Fort Point, it's definitely more of a melony kind of a character to it, and just a little bit toasty, to be completely honest.
And the look is completely different because it's not hazy in the same way.
That's a great way to put it. Quote, in the same way. I would say it's hazy, but not in the same way.
It has an IPA haze.
Yeah, it definitely has finer pop particulate, more filtered, but not filtered.
Like you said, that other one was hazy all day long.
Much lighter mouthfeel, similar kind of notes, not quite as mouth puckering dry, not quite as bitter, thinner, and definitely has more of a toasty character. And I would say the hops are still somewhat grapefruit and pineapple, more on the orange side of those 3, and even more so of maybe a melon-like character. I would say it's a light medium, crisp, clean, refreshing. I forget what I gave it on my beer review channel, but it's going to get a high B plus to about 90 out of 100. So maybe 89.
Eric, what's the nose like?
Nose again is light notes of the pineapple, grapefruit, and orange. It's almost like an orange and a lemony, or I should say orange and melon like character to it. Some oil, not a lot, and definitely there's something between pine and what I would probably say is more of a toasty kind of a note. And it's drinking like that
So the
entirely.
flavors follow the nose.
Flavors follow the nose, and the taste is definitely a very light flavor as compared to the rest of New England's IPAs. But this is a session IPA, and that's exactly what it's doing. So for that style of beer, you're doing pretty good. So as we're doing this examination of IPAs and having you maybe pick some of your favorites or a good one that you like from your area, why do you even think, and it's hard for me to even describe it too, why do you think that IPAs have just like exploded and become the craft beer style right now?
Well, IPA's been around for a while. I mean, I know that over the last 15 years, they've exploded because I think you compare them with anything. You compare it with, like with lagers, I think with IPAs, you compare them with anything. You compare them with Italian food, you compare it with a chicken sandwich, you compare it with, seafood. It's just it complements a lot of those different flavors.
Do you think you have to be a little bit careful with how hoppy of a beer that you're kind of trying to pair food with, or how high the ABV might be of the IPA?
I don't think it really matters, but I do think that that if you're trying to introduce people to these beers, that you don't want to go overboard. If you're the company making the beer, and the reason I say that is a lot of people that drink macro beers, I mean, what you or I might consider not that hoppy might be quite hoppy to someone that consumes a macro beer. And so, I think people need to be cautious. But I agree with Jean-Pierre. I think, the IPAs pair well with everything. And I think another factor is that darker beers I don't think are as appealing to a lot of people. I love them. I love stouts. I love porters. I love dark lagers. But I don't think that people that consume macro beers easily gravitate to dark beers. But I think you can, if you do it well, get them drinking IPAs. That's my 2 cents.
I think a good starter IPA is like the English style more than the American style. Because that tends to be toned down. But if you're going to try one, this New England style with the lower IBUs, I think some people will like them because they're drinkable.
So just to remind people, Michael Komarov, I say this because you never know who may stumble across our video. And if you're watching it at this point in the video time, we congratulate you and we thank you. 2 thumbs up. Ding, 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 ding. I stole that from another YouTuber. But what do you mean by English style IPA versus
English
American?
style is much lower on that hop profile.
There's a more malty flavor.
It's a malt forward. It's malt forward.
Yeah.
It's different in its fruitiness than in its tropical notes, would you say?
Right. It's not hop forward, where the other ones are mostly hop forward.
It's more about malts, right?
The malts are the leaders, and malt IPAs can be fine. But I actually, between you and me now, I like hop forward ones better.
There's a micro beer maker here called Lake of Bays, and they make an English IPA, it's called, and it's just delicious. It's a darker colored beer, and it's got that malt forwardness to it, and it's really, really nice.
Do not like, oh, here I am. I thought I got muted. I do not like this Super Session number 8, and I said it in our chat to us all while you were talking, Michael. I do not like this Super Session number 8 better than Fort Point Double Dry Hopped, although I think the problem with a lot of people or a lot of people's mindset or taste buds in craft beer seems to be, no matter what the trends are in beer, whether it's, okay, we're all going to be about barrel-aged beers. Okay, now we all want to do New England-style IPAs. Or a couple of years ago, it was all about, even if it wasn't a New England-in-style IPA, it seemed like at one point it was all about sessionable IPAs. But I think the one trend that has been around for the longest time in craft beer has been, we got to keep making more and more extreme or more and more intense flavors. Well, let's say you got the most bitter beer in the world that you could ever drink. There are some people that wanted to be bitter, more bitter than that. And there are some people that have had the highest ABV imperial barrel-aged stout known to man. Some people want more alcohol and more barrel and just more extreme flavors from those things. And I think that that's not always what people want. And sometimes if you're into these IPAs or you're into more flavorsome beers, more things to pull out of your beer as far as flavors are concerned, session IPAs can be really good when they're done right. One of the best IPAs you can buy on a regional scale, on a regional level in the United States. I don't know about Canada, unfortunately, but I think would be Founders All Day IPA. You can't go wrong with that any time of the year, nor can you go wrong with a
We get it here, and I love it.
Lagunitas. Nor is Lagunitas IPA, which is pretty regionally available in North America or in Canada and the United States.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a good one too. You don't always have to go. You don't always have to go crazy in the hop level or in the alcohol level of your beers to get a really well-made beer that can appeal to so many different folks out there.
I agree. And if you want to do well and sell your beer, which I imagine is why most of these people get into it, I think you need to be cautious of that, because if you go overboard, you kind of push a whole market share away.
Out.
Yeah.
Also, the extreme end, when Eric and I did the Heady Topper, that was 120 IBUs.
Oh, no, real? Wow. I didn't know that.
That was 120. Now,
it didn't even taste like that.
According to everybody, you cannot taste over 100 anyway. So anything over 100 is just window dressing anyway. There's no difference, you know. I mean, it was dank and it was bitter, but it didn't taste even 100.
You know what we should have done? You bring up you remind me of the first 100 IBU beer I ever had, and I bought it for it was a bomber bottle I bought from my father on Father's Day a number of years ago, and I'm only 29 right now, so I've actually been into beer since I turned 21, and it took me a while to get into IPAs, but the first 100 IBU beer I remember ever having, again, got that for him on Father's Day a couple years ago. We split the bottle. It was Maharaja from Avery, and I guess that's more of a West Coast. It's really sweet, really syrupy, sticky, and toffee-like, but it's just so good you can't taste. You can taste a lot of IBUs, but not bitter to the point where it's unbalanced of a beer. So I'm kind of curious. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but how did any of us? Anybody can jump in one by one. How did any of us even get into liking IPAs? What's your history with IPAs? John Pierre, start with you. What's your history of IPAs, with IPAs? Or pale ales?
IPAs kind of started when I was watching a lot of your videos, your videos and Jay's videos, because, at that point, when I was, it started probably about 2013. Again, I was mostly into your traditional stuff, your lagers, the Bud Lights, the Budweisers, everything else. And then all of a sudden I'm trying, this is kind of a bitter taste, but it tastes good. What is Indian Pale Ales? And then started doing my research and studies and realizing what it is. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot of flavor here. And this is quite good, in realizing that these beers have been around for a long, long time. And, and it started first with the Ranger IPA. And then it started with that, knowing about it, and then Harpin, and then having Magic Hat, all these different different styles, and then learning about the difference between, maybe this last couple of years now, the West Coast IPA and the New England style IPAs, and and seeing this whole rage of IPAs and this and that, from whether it be New Belgium, Abita, this local brewery here, Fairhope, and it was like, hey, this is quite good, And
you're finding
the pairings of it. You could pair it with these different styles of food,
You're finding over time that you discover these IPAs, and as you drink them, you're slowly adapting taste buds and a taste for them that you never knew you had initially.
One person told me, "Oh, it tastes too lemony for me. It's like a sour, like a lemon thing." Or, "Oh, why is it so bitter?" And I say, "Well, that's the flavor. You get the flavor of it, and you taste and you see what it is. It's like, not every beer is going to be the same,
Yeah.
I
Let's go to Michael Corm. Yeah, let's go to Michael Cormorock.
I think I started my base beer with Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and that's a classic pale ale because it's not too hoppy, yet it gives you that lead in to the hops. You can taste it, and that was kind of like my entry beer, and I was drinking that for a while. And then I saw somebody when we got together with friends and stuff. He says, if you like that, you'll probably like something a little bit more intense. So I started going up the ladder a little bit and trying a little bit higher ABV and a little bit higher IBU. And I liked it. I liked the amping it up. I really did. And I'm going to mention this. I don't know if it's going to bring any laughs or people are going to be weird. There's a beer called Palate Wrecker. It's a West Coast IPA. Is it Ballast Point?
I think it's Green Flash.
Green Flash. That stuff is deadly, and yet it's interesting. It is a palate wrecker. If you have that, don't have any beer after, because what it does, it mangles your palate. Because I think that was another one that was in the hundreds IBUs, and it had high alcohol also. But it was a quality beer, but it should be your last beer because you don't want to drink anything after, and it may affect your ability to eat food after also.
That really reminds me, the Green Flash was one of the first, not the first IPA I ever had, but the first one that kind of blew my mind a little bit and went, all right, I get it now. Before they changed the recipe was the original Green Flash West Coast IPA. That changed my mind because up until that point, I think everything that I tried, I felt from my taste buds that I like to think of these IPAs almost as a malt to hop ratio. I think about that in the back of my mind. Does it have a good hop to malt ratio? And a lot of beers I had up until the Green Flash West Coast IPA, the original formula, the one now is reformulated, but I felt like, strangely enough for me, it was a great balance. It was bitter, but it had a good malt base that you could taste. And then for me, I kind of went, if this is IPA, I got to find more of them. For some reason, still to this day, even outside of New England, one of the best IPAs you can buy on the market for me has to be Optimum IPA, which is now being marketed as a triple IPA. As I sit here and tell you, I think it's a very balanced beer. So ever since that beer of Green Flash, West Coast IPA, Optimum IPA, Big Eye, and Sculpin from Ballast Point before it really exploded. Those were the beer, and AleSmith IPA. West Coast IPA has to be given the nod for creating this whole craze of the beers. And I think without West Coast IPAs, New England IPA wouldn't even be the thing that it is today. I don't think it would have been.
I agree with what you said about Michael with Sierra Nevada. I think when I had that the first time, it had, and then when I had it again a couple of years later and tasting it is like, why does this pale ale have a taste of an IPA? And then, that sort of flavor and realizing it and like, hey, again, as I said to y'all, I was a kid who grew up with, the bargain basement beers, the Busch Lights, the Buzz, the Bud Lights, Milwaukee, and then trying something completely different by watching a lot of your videos, everybody's videos in here, and saying, let me sample this. Like, this is kind of different. Hey, I like this. This is all right. Sierra Nevada. Hey, I never heard of this, and I've seen it before. Said, this is all right, and and getting more and more exposure, and it's like, you see it and it's like, hey, blown away by it.
What's your thoughts on IPA history? What's your history there, Michael Jennings?
I can't tell you the first one I ever had off the top of my head. I will say here in Ontario, the craft beer scene is about 35 years old. I will say that its popularity has really risen to the top the last 10 years or so. Where I first started experimenting with IPAs, though, were in restaurants, going to places for lunch, for dinner, and they would have different craft beers on tap usually. And it was just kind of experimentation. I'll try that today. next day or next time I'll try that. You know, when they started bringing out flights of beers, and so that's really how that came about. There seems to be more and more of them every few months. Whenever I go into our liquor store or our beer store, I'm finding, you know, new small microbreweries that make them just in my area. I mean, I can probably, off the top of my head, name a dozen breweries, small breweries that are within an hour's drive of me. Some of them are as old as 30 years old, but many of them aren't even 10 years old now. You know, they're 3 years old, they're 5 years old. And so who knows where it's all going to go, but it was largely through restaurants and experimenting with it that way. And then I go to the liquor store and I go, oh, I had that at a restaurant. I'm going to buy it and take it home.
Yep. That's a great way to do it. Just throw yourself into it at a certain point. You hear enough about it, you got to be curious about it. I'm not saying, especially when I drink the Trillium stuff, right, or the New England stuff, I'm not saying, well, because everybody else loves it, I'm supposed to love it. Well, no. I think as far as IPAs are concerned, it used to be, it was just like not really a hoppy pale ale, but it used to just be that every brewery had to have as a flagship, or at least one of their base beers had to, year-round beers had to be a pale ale. Again, it didn't have to be very hoppy, and probably to Michael Cornroth's point, he kept mentioning the English varieties. It probably was more of an English, just plain old pale ale. And then over time, why and when and for what reason, I don't really know. It became, oh, IPA immediately. And I think, again, more of it was West Coast in origin. I think it really was the West Coast stuff that got this whole thing going. I mean, I remember, again, I'm 29. I started drinking when I was 21. But I even remember when Sculpin IPA was like heady topper to an extent where that was the beer. You had to find, that was like number one, a beer advocate for such a long time. You had to find that beer. And you had to find it now. And if you found it in your area, it's probably because there's only one left. So just get it. And I remember thinking pretty highly of it. And I think a lot of us might have, you know, bitten down on the hype just because everyone else said, you got to try it, you're going to love it. So we all thought, oh, we must love it, right? Ew.
We have a brewer in Nova Scotia called Alexander Keith's. I don't know if Michael
I've heard of it.
I've had that before in Montreal.
Yeah, so they make an India Pale Ale, but it's not hoppy, and yet it's
probably English style.
I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's zero hop bitterness to it, and yet it's Alexander Keith's India Pale Ale, and it's an old beer. It's been around forever.
Okay, when you were mentioning just now, Eric, about the beers on the West Coast, another beer I'm going to mention, since we were comparing it with the heady topper, is one called Pliny the Elder. There's also Pliny the Younger. It's from Santa Rosa, California, but Pliny the Elder is in that same
Russian River.
It's from Russian River Brewing, and it's in the same vein. Very hard to get. You have to wait on lines. It is sold, but not in massive amounts, and it doesn't get shipped very far.
That was the first big IPA, I think, to probably have that kind of a cult following. You're right.
Before Heady Topper even did in Vermont. That had. And the other thing I was going to mention, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, 6 Point was able to steal somebody from Trillium, a guy, another Eric, and he's working for them now at 6 Point. And the beer that's coming out this Saturday is going to be a beer called Hootie, Hootie. So you can look this guy's
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Like Hootie and the Blowfish.
How much you want for that? Here you go.
Anyway, I have so much of this barrel-aged stuff in the refrigerator, Eric. I only bought a 6-pack. I didn't go crazy. It was $3 a can, $18 I can afford, but it gives me entry to pick up the beer and get to choose all this other stuff that's there.
Hootie's calling right now.
Yes, he is. Hold on.
He only wants to be with you and not me.
And there's also a Hootie. They're also releasing, I didn't buy any, a Hootie Who, which is a pale ale, a hazy pale ale.
Hootie Who?
Hootie Who is what it's called.
You mean Darius Rucker?
Maybe it's him. Maybe Darius is behind the naming. Who knows? But I'll be interested to see if this guy Eric has an effect, because maybe this is going to be more New England style than the thing I did tonight, which came out of their own formulation.
And that's my problem as far as New England style IPAs are concerned. I mean, granted, I'm not even going to let the area that I live in judge me on that. I just like that style. For me, it's not even about a bitter. It's like a mouthfeel sensation thing that's so mind-boggling. But I think that it's getting a little bit too. I think it's almost growing too large for its own good. You know what I mean by that?
You don't want it to take over. In other words, you don't want it to get to the point where it eats itself up.
I don't want it to be to the point where no other beer styles can seem viable in North America other than New England IPA. Again, I love those beers, but we did last week. I know Michael Kormaroff was there with us. We did Belgian style beers, and that is another whole style of beer. That is another whole kind of a cult following, and people that stand in line to get certain beers, and people that will trade for days to get West Latarian 12 and big beers like that. And for some reasoning or another, and I did one of the beers as well, Dave and I can just, for whatever reason, be really into sour beers when the moment is correct. And sometimes we just crave those kind of beers. And it's not like we always want IPAs. We have taste buds. We like different things for different reasonings, whether it's seasonal related, whether our brain wants to try something else, whether we're craving it or we're maybe eating food. We want a different kind of a beer, God bless you. Or we're doing a lot of activities like, say, in May, we went with Jordan and Massive Beer Reviews to Gillette Stadium to go see Metallica. And we did have a lot of different beers, including a lot of sessionable IPAs. But we also drank some just lower ABV stuff as well, and lagers, because
light beers, things like that.
If you're going to drink for a longer period, even though you drink some lower ABV beers, you also have to think about the price too, because number one, you don't want to drink really heavy beers. Number two, you want to think about the price of that beer, because you're drinking all day long. That'll also dictate what you're going to drink. So different factors require different beers for different reasonings. And sometimes you just want a different beer for what's going on.
Eric, what do you think about next week? Do you have any ideas?
I was thinking we did barrel-aged beers, which almost required it being a stout or a dark beer, which it didn't really, but it almost did. I was slightly thinking in the back of my mind maybe German beers. I don't know.
That sounds okay. German beer sounds good. Michael, can you get a hold of German beers in Canada?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
German beers or German style?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
It can be either, I guess.
Sean, what you got?
Well, I'm going to be doing a review after we get done. I'm going to do a review of Cigar City Lager.
I've never had Cigar City.
Which I picked up. Of course, they're based in Tampa. Excuse me.
I've had their IPA, their Highlight. I've had their Highlight IPA.
It's on my bucket list still.
That's another one that also made me started liking IPAs. That one right there, the Highlight IPA was quite good and still is.
Very good IPA for sure.
All right, sweet.
Also, I got another one I'll review probably this weekend, which I shouldn't because it's going to be in the 70s here this weekend.
That stuff is good.
This is the reason why people get sick. But
John, that stuff is good.
Backwoods Bastard barrel age stout from Founders.
That's good. That's good stuff.
I can't reach it.
Yeah, I'd like to.
You can reach it. Can you get it? Can you touch it? Can you touch it, Eric? You got it? Okay.
That's what she said. Can I touch it?
Yes.
So why don't we leave it? Why don't we leave it as German?
Reviewing this one too. Probably.
Style. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll probably review this probably tomorrow. I got one more cold night here. It's going to be in the 40s, and then surprisingly Saturday is going to be in the 70s. Saturday here, Mobile. This is the reason why people get sick in this damn town.
Let's do a German beer and or German style beer. So to end this whole to end this whole IPA discussion, it seemed like it got better as we went along, not because of alcohol, but our thoughts became a little bit more concentrated, which was nice there. So if you're watching this, two guys are live. Thank you, sir, and probably sir. Anybody else got a closing thought about IPAs or the discussion or anything to add before we go over to not live?
IPAs are good. Can be paired with anything, just like lagers. So you compare it like lagers like to pair with hot food, spicy food. IPAs you compare it with it's on the same level with lagers. Pair with anything food wise. It's an enjoyable brew, in my opinion.
Just be aware of how hoppy your beer is, because that could actually conflict with the food that you're choosing.
Yes. My final thought, guys, is
there you go.
IPAs are a great base style.
Yes.
And it's it is a truly American style, even though it was founded by Britain taking the beers to India and the original where it first came from.
For preservation.
For preservation purposes. But it's evolved into an American beer, and it's special. And I think IPAs were where I first got into something which was like a specialty style that I really liked, and I still like it. So I'm always willing to try a different one.
Michael Jennings.
Explore them. There are so many to try out there. They have common elements, but their own little nuances that make them different. So if you don't like one, move on and try another, because there's a lot out there and they're all a little different.
I forgot, Eric, when you mentioned Green Flash, the Lafrique IPA in Belgium. Belgian style. Superb.
There's a whole nother style of beers, Belgian pale ales and Belgian IPAs. Holy crap.
That's true. That's true.
And then depending on where the hops come from in the world, there's so many different variables on why an IPA tastes the way that it does. Okay. I am in love with the fact that you can make an IPA. I'm trying to, this one I'm drinking now is just mosaic hops. So you can take an IPA and make it one hop only and get that one hop character mixing with the malts. You can take a varying different amount of hops, put them together in the right proportions, and create its own unique flavor profile. The thing I like about IPAs is it's simple beer ingredients, and they just do what they do so magnificently. And as I almost said Peter Jennings, as Michael Jennings said, if you don't like one, go to the other. So many different places from the world that brew an IPA, and because of that influence to that part of the world, they will taste different. For me, Eric, personally, I just like that aspect.
What number would you give the Lawson's Super Session beer in the 100 scale?
Number 8. Number 2, I like way better. I think I give this an 89.
Okay.
89, I'm going to give that.
Okay. I'm heading out, but next week, German style, we'll get the word out.
Let's do it. Why not?
Take care, guys. Everybody enjoy.
All right. Talk to you next week.
All right, y'all. It's been fun.
Off air we go. Cheers, everybody. Well, wait a minute. Before we do that, everybody left. Until next time, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers, and I'll see you soon.